This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs.
Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for the Carta Magica Digimon Webcam Regionals that happened this past weekend. It was almost 500 players, and it did use the new April 1st rule set, which includes that the Greymon X from BT11 is at one copy, and we do have the mulligans. And real quick before we get started onto this video, one, if you guys want to see any of the deck lists, make sure to check out my website, which is linked below. It's the page that we're on right now, and it does have a lot of other breakdowns for the Digimon card game from this format and others, so that's really cool. And then also big shout outs to Carta for letting myself and Human do the commentary for the event. Really do appreciate the opportunity for that. And if you guys want to see the video for it, it is on Twitch right now, which is linked in the description, as well as on this this page here, and then it should be re-uploaded to the Carta Magica YouTube channel in the next couple weeks as well, so make sure to check that out. And lastly, real quick, I do want to say just appreciate all the support in the last couple weeks on all my videos, website, and everything else. I do appreciate all that support. And if you guys haven't hit the like and subscribe button, I would appreciate that as well, just to show that you guys are continuing to like the content, and it's a lot of work, so I want to make sure that you guys are appreciating the work as well. But going on into this breakdown itself, we do have 9 cross hearts in this top 16, which is quite a bit, 5 of them being Merva, and one of those Mervas winning the event, and then 4 of them being more of the cross 7 variant. We had 2 Beelzemons, with which is the new kind of deck on the block. With the release of the Advanced Star deck, it's just a bunch of new cards that the archetype gets to use, which is really, really neat. We also did have 1 Merva, 1 BWGX X, 1 AncientGrey, 1 Security Control, and 1 Examon as well. So we're going to look at the top placing list for each one of these archetypes, starting off with our first place list here. And this is Billy's first place crossheart, again using the Merva package. And if you don't know what that kind of means, there are 2 kind of ways to build crossheart, I think, right now. One is more of like the low to the ground, almost like a rookie rush kind of build of it, where you just get a lot of tiny attacks in. You just use as many of your tamers as you can just to get more of your free plays and just get a lot of advantage from these. And then you can also use your Mervamon, which gives everything with crossheart rush, and then on play you're able to play essentially 2 crosshearts from your trash, which is really strong. And if you're able to keep your turn, which you try to do with your Blinding Rays, your Gravity Crush, and your Reinforcing Memory Boost, which can give you 3 memory, you're able to just get 3 attacks into security very quickly as well. So very, very kind of strong archetype in that way, being able to just be very fast. And since a lot of these, traditionally like OTKs are right now are going tall, or at least before this format, we're going tall like Grandis or something like that, where you just have one single stack that does a lot of damage. This deck is more about doing a lot of tiny swings with a bunch of bodies, so it's harder for you to individually take out one body and be safe with it, because there's just 3 or 4 attacks coming in from different sources. And right now, with what a lot of people are running, a lot of people are attacking, it's a little bit trickier for you to kind of adjust to that right now. So very strong deck. Again, it did have 5 tops in the top 16, specifically the Mervamon list, and it's a pretty strong deck. I think a lot of people are quickly finding just how obnoxious and effective this deck can be. So congratulations again to Billy for their first place finish there. And looking at Greyson, so this is just the other build of crossheart here. So this is Greyson's 5th place with the cross 7 variant, and I've also seen some builds which run cross 7 and the Merva, but this guy's really, really strong as well, being able to just play this guy with max reduction. He becomes a 2 cost, and then it has rush, then it has also the ability to KO something, and with all your inheritables you can get security attack +1, you can get blocker, and then the generic draw a card -2k to security, and then also get piercing. So pretty, and reboot as well from Mervamon. So pretty good for what it does there. I think this is a really, obviously the way they intended you to build the archetype, where you're supposed to just play your big boy after you get all the materials after the next couple turns, and it can still be very, very strong in that way too. Something that also, like, a lot of people have kind of just dropped the Omni Shout DX, and I kind of agree with it. Even though it can cost as either materials, the fact that you miss out on the most important part, which is the inheritable, I think it's just too good to kind of give up for this deck. So running the 2 and 2 on the Omni Shout and Zeke, I've seen even some people run 3 Z Greymons just because the blocker on top of your Shoutmon X7 can be really strong and can stop a lot of decks as well. So I think that's really good. good there. Death Axe is just a way to have some control. We saw like Crimson in the other side, and then also Shoutmon King version as well, which is pretty solid, just to get some recursion and just kind of everything else. So not much more to say about this. Congratulations to Greyson on their 5th place finish there. Next up, we do have Tyler's 3rd place Beelzemon, and as I said earlier, this is definitely the new deck on the block. We did get the new advanced starter deck that just gets a lot of new cards into this card pool, and a lot of them are really strong for what they are. So obviously you got to run a lot of Imps as it is, and you're only running 12 rookies, but with the mulligan format that we're in right now, that's actually not too bad, especially since this deck doesn't generically need to find their rookies, but it's what it is. There's also, you know, the idea for this deck is you just try to build your trash as quick as possible, and you have a lot of cards that just activate when they get trashed from your deck, including the Wizardmon, including the Rivals Barrage, including the Deathslinger, including your Blast Mode too. So or sorry, just this one here, which gets your this Beelzemon. All the art looks the same. This one, which when trash, you get to play an Impmon from your trash, which is pretty guaranteed after like the first turn or two. So I think that helps your deck a lot. You do also have the Witchmon, which when Digivolve, you get to trash the top 3 cards of your deck, which then if you use the effect of the Ayamako to when Digivolving, reduce the devolution cost, and then you can put something from your hand on top of your deck to make sure that gets trashed. You can get like a guaranteed hit of something of Wizardmon or Deathslinger to just get that extra memory. So technically you can Digivolve into this Witchmon for 0 memory with all these effects, and I think that's very, very strong there. Otherwise than that, just also one more card, I guess. Darkness Wave is really strong in this deck. I was kind of like, why are you running this deck? It just is the trash 3. You don't get like any other advantage because you're not having a yellow Digimon in play, but just this trash 3 can just do so much for you. And sometimes like you need to get more cards in your trash to get your effects off. This essentially puts 4 cards into your trash, and when there's so many good effects that happen, you know, coincidentally when this happens, it's great. And sometimes it's just like a way to give your opponent only 1 memory on the next turn. So I really like this ad. I was definitely wrong about this in this deck, and I definitely consider you guys to play it in the deck as well. So really cool deck. I like the way that it's played. We'll see if it continues to do well. I know it definitely will in BT12 because we do have another kind of boss monster to enter into the deck. So that's all I'm going to talk about here, but congratulations for Tyler for their finish there. Next up, we do have Fu with their 6th place Mervamon, and Merva's taken a lot of tops, whether it's in the Crossheart or in this version as well. And most people kind of use the build where it's Minervamon and Mervamon, but this is strictly with the Mervamon engine, and you're only running 3 as well. So this is a pretty unique deck list in that way too. You just try to fill your trash as well. You have the Scatter mode, you have the Eyes mod, and then you do have the potential for your Retaliations and Mervas. So you do have 3 of the Ignitemon, you have the Dark Lizardmon. You're also playing 3 of the Psychmon, which can impact yourself because you do want the reduced cost for your Mervas and your Death X, but I think this generally hits the Crossheart deck a little bit more than yourself, which is great. And you can just, you know, have this attack into security or attack into, a body that you know that would either trade or to get deleted into, play your Merva, and then you can use the Merva to bring it back, which is really strong too. So just the fact that this deck can loop the Psychmon as well as it is, I think is very good for it. And it's a really cool deck for everything what it is. A lot of recursion. It kind of like honestly feels, it's not, but it feels like you're playing a cross between Beelzemon and Crossheart, which is just how the recursion works and everything else. And I think that's really cool in its own right. So congratulations to Fu for their win there. And then next up we have Derek with their Blackwar Greymon X for 7th place. And, you know, obviously this was the best deck in the format a couple weeks ago, and the big thing that's happened is the Greymon X going down to 1, and this is really, really impactful for this deck. And the reason that is traditionally you get to use this guy for cost reduction and protection, right? Both these effects are really strong, and you can go into the Greymon X antibody, and it does get some protection and technically a little bit of cost reduction if you think of, if you have the Cool Boy out, but it doesn't get as much reduction as the Greymon X, and I think that's the biggest thing about this card in general, because if you have just a couple memory, you can still go Metal Greymon, keep your turn, and then go into a level 6, right? That's not something that's really possible with Greymon X antibody from BT11 at 1 copy. You need to be able to get that reduction more consistently, and without that, you can't really just jump from a 4 to a 6 as easily as you used to be, and I think that's the biggest kind of nerf for this deck, because it takes just another turn to do that, especially since both your level 5s, you want to have the devolution happen in the battle area instead of the raising area where it's safe, and I think that's also something that's just impacting the deck. So I know some people have been talking about using Deltamon for this deck for the reduction cost, and I think that makes sense, but I also think you're losing a lot of protection for it too, and you're kind of just have to make the decision of, do I want the reduction or do I want the protection? Because I simply can't get both anymore with Greymon X at at 1 copy, and I think that's impacting a lot of the matchups as well, right? This card's really good, and all these cards are really strong if you're able to get up into it consistently, and you're just not able to as much, simply because if you take 1 turn longer, especially when you have a lot of aggression decks like Crossheart and Beelzemon, that 1 extra turn could just be the difference between winning and losing, unfortunately. So that's my thoughts. We'll see if Blackboard Greymon has any more techs or any ways to be a little bit better. I think it's still a strong deck, but definitely not the spot it was before the X Antibody Greymon from BT11 was at 4 copies. So there's their list. Congratulations for their finish there. And then next up we have Mario's 8th place Ancient Greymon, and I'm not going to pretend I know how this deck works as well as he does. So if you guys want to see his interview, it's linked in the website. It should be there. I'm going to try my best anyways, but this obviously is an older deck. I think this deck's been around for almost a year. BT7's been out for almost a year, right? And there are a couple new tech cards for this deck specifically, but the idea for this is that you have, a lot of aggression, or a really big punch with this Ancient Greymon. You get a lot of security bonuses from having your hybrids underneath it, and if you're able to also have the Aldermon underneath it as well, which is moderately easy because you do get to Digivolve into this for 1, as long as you have a hybrid in your stack. You do also have like an in-archetype protection against security triggers too, so that just means a lot if you're able to get this into this with like 4 security +1, so security attack +4, get 5 checks, and then you can use like Omnimon to finish the game. That's moderately consistent, and also with the mulligans, you're able to get your cards a little bit more consistently that way too, so you do get benefited from that. And there are some tech cards, Crimson Blaze, being able to use this and your opponent not being able to play cards from effect can be, slow them down another turn, which means you can set up a little bit more. And then also the high speed plugin D, which lets you draw cards from security, which can help you there, but also give you jamming in case you really need one of your cards to survive as well. So overall, a very aggressive deck, and I think it's definitely like maybe, I'm not sure if it's better than Grandis right now, because it's kind of the same idea that Grandis goes tall and is attacks with their big body. This one doesn't get as many swings, but it has a bigger swing, and also the, again, being able to skip your opponent's security triggers is really strong as well. So that's the list there. Again, if you want to see more information and a better breakdown, go to his video, and congratulations on that top 8 there. Next up, we do have Chase's 14th place Security Control, and Security Control we haven't seen in a little bit because of the Ultimate Cut format, and I think a lot of people were kind of happy about that, but in this list specifically, we just kind of see a lot of the kind of usual suspects for it. The only card that I would want to maybe think about adding is the Ayamako effect, because with the Ophanimon, if you're able to use it consistently, you're able to Digivolve into this. You can use the Ayamako to put a card to the top of your deck, and then after you do that, you can recover one, right? So if you have like a bunch of cast degradation stuck in your hand, you can use the Ayamako to stack the top of your deck, reduce their devolution cost by 1, and then you can use that to make it so your security is whatever you want it to be, at least a top card, which can really mess with your opponent a lot of the time. So especially like, let's say you could put like Lonky specifically as the 4th card because you know where you're at. That could be really, really powerful for like a double removal there too. So I think this is a obviously still a really strong deck. I think less decks are kind of there for. Honestly, I don't think it has a really good matchup against Crossheart, because this punishes, again, like the big stack, like I was talking about for Crossheart, where you just have a lot of tinier, bodies that, single-handedly attack. And this deck isn't as good as removing those. Like Death Examon can do like a really good, a cheap board clear against the deck because, they run so many tamers, but it's really kind of hard to consistently kind of defend against that deck, in my opinion, too. So this is Chase's list, and congratulations for their finish there. And then lastly, we do have Aaron's 16th place Examon. And we've always kind of, like, Examon's always been near this top 16 finish. It's gotten a couple since release, but I do think it's definitely a deck that did get a lot of benefits from the idea of a mulligan, especially since you have to run just so many level 6s and level 7s for this deck to be consistent, or at least to be able to find your pieces. If you just open up a hand full of just level 6s, you're going to have a bad time most of the time. But with the new mulligan rule, and especially since the new mulligan rule lets you shuffle instead of just putting the cards to the bottom of your deck like the old one used to be, this deck can get a little bit more consistency that again, once you set up with this deck, Examon, there are a lot of decks that just simply don't get around this, right? There's a lot of decks that just don't have an option against it, especially since, at the beginning of the turn, there's so many decks that care about bringing up from raising so they can do their big combo play, and as soon as you raise up, making the effect so they have to attack into something, it just means that like they less consistently get that as well. So I think that's something that really helps the Examon list do well right now, is the combination of being a little bit more consistent because of mulligans, and some of these matchups just very, very tricky if you actually are able to set up your Examon as well. So a couple little tank cards. We do have Poison Powder, which is essentially just like a worse version of Ice Wall. Santi as well, which can help you stun something. Ice Wall, which is just a better version of Poison Powder, I guess. Megadeth, which I'm actually surprised we're only at one copy of this. And then also the Takumi as well, which does stop like level 3s, and it does give you like an extra draw every time you try to go up into your chain, which is nice. I don't think this really affects a lot of things in the meta right now. Maybe like a couple of Impmon swings, but I don't know. This is a bit of a curious. I've seen it in the deck before, but I'm not sure how effective this is. Personally, I haven't seen it as well. But that is the list. Congratulations to Aaron for their 16th place finish. And that will be it for us. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Again, if you guys want to see all the deck lists, make sure to check out my website linked below. Make sure to check out the VOD from Carta Magica, and appreciate everything you guys have been doing for me for the last couple weeks. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it. Damn it.